Welcome to the Happy Dog Podcast. This podcast is designed to bring you ideas and uplifting information to help you live a meaningful and fulfilled life with your dog from a holistic perspective. Now, let's explore the world of a happy dog. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Dog Podcast. This is a solo episode and something that I wanted to chat with my fellow pet parents, dog owners, dog moms, dog dads, whatever you call yourself. I wanted to talk about our own wellness as it relates to our dogs. And if you're ready to turn this off because you're like, I don't want to hear about working out or anything like that, I promise you this isn't an ad to work out or do anything like that, because I'll get this off my chest first. First of all, I hate running. I am not the biggest fan of going hardcore working out, but I really wanted to more so talk about how the way that we kind of put our dog's wellness on a pedestal does need to happen with us. And that doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we have to be better about taking care of ourselves as caregivers of these dogs. And so whether you have multiple dogs like I do, or you have one dog, or maybe you work in the pet industry or with dogs daily, and then you go home to dogs, you are giving a lot of your care and energy to animals, to something else that isn't you. And I've been that person who, for the last 10 years, I've been working with dogs in some sort of capacity. And I know that burnout is real. And I also know that it can be really easy to put your own health and wellness on the back burner. But one of the things that I've really found is that whenever I put my wellness on the back burner, it does a disservice to my dogs. Because if I'm not feeling well, ultimately, they aren't going to get the kind of care that I want to give them. And I have my own health stuff that I deal with. I have celiac disease. I also, sorry if there's any guys listening to this, but I have some menstrual disorders, which are really, really a treat to deal with. But those really can debilitate me, especially the cycle disorders. So, and it's an every month thing, so it's really awesome. But one of the things that has really helped me in overcoming the way I think about, the disorders I have and the wellness that I want for myself and my dogs is to really kind of mind over matter all of that and know that if I'm not taking care of myself, I can't take care of my dogs the way I want. And I have 5 dogs, so there's a lot of dogs to take care of. They all need, they all need exercise. And some of them need exercise in very different ways, between Jane, who's missing a leg, Meatball, who's missing a leg and has hip dysplasia, Izzy, who is a senior but very high energetic dog, Hudson, who has allergies and inflammation and also gets really sore in his hips, and then Mila, who is a diabetic. So all different levels of energy and exercise and what they can and can't do going on. And I got to manage it. And then I also have to manage their diet along with all of that. And making sure that they are getting enough rest in between, because Jane could go for 24 hours running outside. But that ain't going to be good for her leg. And so I really have to push her and be diligent about rest days, because she's so incredibly athletic. And so in thinking through all these things, with my dogs and their diets and rest days and all sorts of things like that, it would be really easy for me to totally neglect my own wellness and my sleep and my exercise and my food. And I have definitely done that in the past, where all I've eaten was just crap while they're eating these gourmet raw meals that are perfectly balanced and, all this sort of thing, while I, instead of going to exercise and move my body, will just sit and rewatch episodes of The Office, for the 50th time, which I love The Office. So there's nothing wrong with rewatching an episode as long as you make time for the other things that are important, because I've noticed that when I feel better and when I am eating the right foods and when I am moving for at least 30 minutes a day, whether that is a jog, which is not running because I hate running, or a walk, which usually it's like a walk jog type thing, or I will go to a Zumba class or I'll go to a yoga class. It really depends on what's going on with my body at that time of the month and what I can physically handle. But every single day I've been pushing myself because I know that I will feel better if I move around. And if I can do it with one of the dogs, even better. Just like the best thing in the world, because then they're getting their dedicated exercise. I'm getting mine. We're doing it together. And there's really not a better feeling, honestly. And so with that, holding your own food standards to as high of a food standard as you would your dog, that is really hard. I am somebody who loves Thai food and tacos. Could eat it for every meal, every single day of my life. I don't feel well, though, when I will binge eat tacos. So I have to be careful about what I do and what I eat, because what I eat really affects my health in terms of the disorders that I'm going through and dealing with. And so I might have to make an extra healthy taco if I really want to eat tacos. I can't just binge out on corn tortillas, which don't do anything for my health, and, tons of dairy either. But so I've tried to be really, really good about, if my dogs basically have to eat healthy all the time for every single meal, so twice a day, 7 days a week, I at least can eat healthy 5 times a week for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's just holding yourself to that same standard that you would your dog is basically what I'm trying to kind of get across. And I guess the reason that I am passionate about this right now, it's not that I haven't been before, but I think I was still trying to kind of figure out my own way of making sure that I'm incorporating wellness into my own routine and not just the dogs, is that I went to this conference a few weeks ago and I was totally skeptical of it. I thought it was a weird church cult thing, and it was the Rachel Hollis Rise conference. And pretty much every time she said something about or any of the speakers said something about kids, I equated that to dogs, because there's 5 dogs at home and they're kind of like kids. They're always running around and making noise, and I always have to tend to them in some way. But yeah, so, her whole thing was taking time away and not feeling guilty. And I have dog guilt that I carry around a lot of the times. It's really hard because Izzy and Hudson are getting older. So is Mila. And so all I want to do is spend time with them because they are getting older. But the moral of the story is, if I'm not able to prioritize my own wellness, which might mean I have to leave to go to a Zumba class or yoga or whatever it is, or get out of the house for hours because I need to work on something, away from chaos and dogs, then that's fine. And I'm basically at this point in my life a stay-at-home dog mom with a job, but working from home is not very glamorous and sometimes can be really hard. I kind of wish I had an office, but there were things that I did when I did work out of an office for years on end that weren't serving me either, but that I knew I could be better about. When I'd come home, I would be exhausted and not want to take any of the dogs out or for a walk. But anytime I did, I always felt better. So I kept striving to do it because I knew that I would feel better, they would feel better. Not only that, but they needed it. And this is when this was a long, long time ago when we didn't have a yard in the city or anything. So, there were things that I wish I'd done differently back then, like just being more motivated to get up early and do the walks and things like that. But everything unfolds as it should. And one of the things I'm doing now is getting up early to really tend to the dogs, not only because there's a lot of them, but because then I don't feel so stressed to put the things I want to do to the top of my list once I've literally gotten everything with them out of the way. So I'll wake up early, much earlier than I used to, like 6 or 7 a.m., depending on how late I've gone to sleep. And if I'm up at 6, I'm really, really able to run them, feed them, get them to a good spot with what they need to feel good. And then I can go and not be stressed. And it's the most amazing thing because you don't have to come home then after you've had a day of working. And for me, a day of working is usually out at a coffee shop. And I feel guilty for leaving them or they needed an extra something. So one of the things that I've been really holding myself accountable to, and this might sound silly to some people, is getting up early to get the dog's wellness stuff done so that then I can take care of my own wellness. And whether or not that, everybody has different schedules, so that might not work for you. But I guess I'm just trying to say that in order to prioritize your own wellness, I know your dog's wellness and needs being met is really important. Or I'm assuming so if you're listening to this. And so how can you shift things around in your schedule to accommodate for both so that not just one of you is getting what they should? And that's something that I had struggled with for a while. And it wasn't until I really started kind of practicing my own wellness and seeing okay, yeah, if I do really, really practice this and make sure that I'm holding myself accountable, my dog's lives are 10 times better. So my point in all this is to really kind of think about the fundamentals that we give our dogs and how we can make sure that we're giving ourselves that. So for me, I guess there's 3 main areas to focus on that are fundamentals. That's food, exercise, and then rest. And I have been able to do that amazingly well with my dogs. And I'm really getting there with myself. But, if you're in a caregiver role, it's harder to do those things for yourself usually than it is for somebody else. But I promise you, if you try to be really conscious of doing it for yourself, you will be able to take care of those other dogs or cats or humans or whatever they are that you're caregiving for 10 times better. So really, I try to focus on eating well, sleeping well, and then exercising at least 30 minutes a day, just depending on what I can do, even if it's just a walk. It's better than nothing. And then I can feel good that I gave myself something and I'm not just constantly pouring everything into my dogs who, yes, they're incredibly deserving and I want to give them the world, if you can't tell. But if I'm not giving myself that same kind of care, then they're just not going to get it as much as they could. So that's really my message for people in this podcast. And I wanted to keep it short and sweet because it's pretty simple, but just because it's simple doesn't make it easy. So, if you need help or you need some motivation, you can always email me or shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, and we can hold each other accountable and really motivate each other to be better to ourselves so that we can be better for our dogs. When I changed my branding and business name to Holistic Pet Wellness, it kind of clicked for me too that I would have the opportunity to talk about holistic people wellness as well, because they kind of go hand in hand. if you are practicing holistic pet wellness for your animals, then you really need to be doing it for yourself. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to do it for them in the way that you want to, because there can be a lot of like push and pull and guilt and negativity, and it can just be tough. Like, you won't feel as good as you could if you just practice that same level of care that you give to your dogs as you do to yourself. So that's all I wanted to say. Take care of yourself, dog moms and dads and pet parents or dog owners or whatever you want to call yourself. Take care of yourself just as much as you take care of your dogs. And I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast.